Around the end of the Roman Republican era to the early Roman Imperial era, the Tomb of Eurysaces, or the Tomb of the Baker, was constructed to commemorate the life of the freedman Marcus Virgilius Eurysaces and his wife Atistia. After becoming a full citizen, Eurysaces became a baker and commemorated his tomb to his life as a baker, with friezes depicting the process that goes into baking bread. The tomb is a trapezoidal-shaped structure made from concrete and travertine for the facing of the structure and tufa for its base. The base of the structure is made to look like pillars supporting another box, with circular holes on every side. These circular structures are believed to be, by scholars, grain silos used to store the grains that bakers would use for their bread. The fourth wall is the only exception, for it was destroyed over time. On each of these three remaining walls, there is a decorative frieze above the holes in the walls that show people making bread. The Tomb of Eurysaces remains relevant to the modern world because of its depiction of Roman everyday life, freedmen in this case specifically. It is also more relevant to the modern world because it was rediscovered during the 19th century when the Porta Praenestina La Picana was torn down, revealing the tomb that was built into part of the structure.
The Tomb of Eurysaces was built in the mid to late century BCE. It is a three-story trapezoidal structure between two major Roman streets, the Villa Labicana and the Villa Praenestina, outside the Servian walls. The tomb is 33 feet above the ancient level of the Via Labicana, however, is dwarfed by the Porta Maggiore monument about 80 years later. The entire structure is made of tufa blocks, while the interior and the core are concrete. Marking the different levels of the tomb are cylinders placed vertically for the first level and horizontally for the second level. Scholars believe that these cylinders were silos used to store grain because of Eurysaces' occupation as a baker. While the building of the Aurelian walls, the tomb of the baker was somewhat destroyed during its process. The front of the tomb, the east side, is missing nearly the entire facade. This side contained the entrance doorway to the tomb, but also a marble relief portrait of a man and woman dressed in Roman attire. This portrait is to be the married couple Eurysaces and his wife Atistia, but this portrait is also covering the third floor of the tomb of the baker. The other sides of the tomb were untouched by structural damage and show us different steps in bread making. The south is the consignment and grinding of grain. The north is the kneading and formation into loaves and the baking of bread, while the west is the weighing of the bread that is made. Between the second and third levels of the tomb is an inscription put there by Eurysaces stating Marcus Virgilius Eurysaces, who was pistor or master baker and redemptor or contractor. During his time alive, Eurysaces made a fortune selling bread to the Roman armies with this fortune bought the land for his magnificent tomb.
Roman cultural history has mostly been focused on that of the elite and not the everyday citizen. As such, the Tomb of the Baker is a key piece of non-elite history that gives us insight into the life of Eurysaces, an ordinary Roman citizen who is presumed to be a wealthy ex-slave. Though unconfirmed, this is assumed because of Eurysaces' name being of Greek origin, among other things. It is typical of native Romans to inscribe filiation or relation to their parents on their tombs. Eurysaces' tomb lists no relation to parents on his tomb, merely his profession as a baker, contractor, and public servant. Male Romans also have a tria nomina, a name comprised of three parts that is a marker of a native Roman. Eurysaces lacks this tria nomina, though he does not engrave L or Lib onto his tomb, which is often what libertini or freedmen place on their grave to mark their pride as an ex-slave. Libertini held citizen status in Rome and acquired most citizen rights, though freedmen could never have an elite position in Roman society because they could not hold elective office. As such, libertini were rather equal in common society, but would forever operate under somewhat of a glass ceiling. The Tomb of Eurysaces is additionally unique to Roman culture because of its atypical appearance. This tomb was large and trapezoidal, featuring unconventional architectural forms standing out from the rest of the structures behind it. Eurysaces certainly had pride in his work as a baker, as there are repetitive images of the baking process throughout the tomb, nearly hitting a point of redundancy. As literacy rates were rather low in Rome, it is likely that there was apparent stress for imagery in tombs so that even the common citizen could understand that such a tomb is dedicated to Eurysaces the baker.
The Tomb of Eurysaces is still interesting among scholars today because it is unknown whether certain aspects of the tomb belong to the Tomb of Eurysaces. or to another baker's tomb that also happens to be nearby. This is suggested by another frieze that was discovered, which also depicts the process of bread making, just like the Tomb of Eurysaces friezes do. And this uncertainty of these friezes raised the question about whether or not Atistia was Eurysaces' real wife. Due to its lack of indication on the tomb saying that Eurysaces was a freedman, the most compelling evidence identifying the Tomb of Eurysaces as a freedman's tomb is the style and theme of the tomb. The freedman style of building is understandably outlandish, for it was meant to make a statement about a person's life who had no power and previously came from a family without power as well. In building these tombs, such as the Tomb of Eurysaces, freedmen are making their own life story known. This focus on memorial after death also extends to today's society, as gravestones have the name and date of the person's life, and the remaining family usually writes a description of that person's life for an obituary. Unfortunately, the freedman style also creates issues with understanding the development and evolution of artistic styles, as the freedman style deviates significantly from what is understood and expected from art at a specific time. The aspect of the Tomb of Eurysaces belonging to a freedman also creates an issue with how scholars then view Eurysaces, as they compare his life, much like the lives of other freedmen, to the character Trimalchio from the Satyricon. Unfortunately, this comparison makes understanding the lives of freedmen less accurate, because as the name Satyricon implies, the comparison of freedmen lives to the Roman elite is made to be blown completely out of proportion, as freedmen are now seen as wasteful and needlessly throw their newly gained wealth around to show their change in status. In Eurysaces' case, his tomb is seen as throwing his wealth around to make a tomb where people will have to remember him and his gained wealth. While we cannot say what the intention of Eurysaces or other freedmen were back in ancient Rome, it is more likely that the liberated slaves were modest with their wealth, likely looking to preserve some for their future families, and using it for memorial sites to preserve their memory. An interesting part of the tomb's history is that the tomb was used as part of a base in the Porta Prenestina Labicana, making the tomb go unnoticed until the 1800s, when the Porta Prenestina Labicana was destroyed. The destruction of the Porta Prenestina Labicana was initiated by Pope Gregory XVI in the year 1837 to make Claudius's Porta Maggiore more noticeable. The Tomb of Eurysaces is a strong example of the lengths everyday Romans went through to remain remembered even after their death, and it also shows how this need to be remembered is even stronger amongst freedmen, for their tombs were more outlandish and stand out more than other tombs. The Tomb of Eurysaces does this with its unique facades representing grain silos, overall unique trapezoidal shape, and its many friezes depicting everyday tasks of the life of Eurysaces. While some of the tomb's details remain a mystery, it is this uncertainty in visual style that makes the Tomb of Eurysaces memorable even to today.